Okay, I'm back again. Let's finish some basic understanding of the Java programming. So first of all, we need to know the primitive data types. So there are 8 different primitive data types in Java. Primitives data type. Um, a class defines a custom data type. Okay, that's it. There are 8 primitive data types. The types built into Java. So they are integer a 32 bit integer value. So there is long long sorry long is 64 bit integer value. So the number is 32, 64. These are defined how long one of the data will be. Okay, so they're how big. Float is 60. Float is 32, is smaller than the long integer. 32 bit floating point value. Okay, there are double is a 64 bit floating point. Value. And the short is 16 bit integer value, and then byte and 8 bit this is also an integer. Boolean is represents a value of either true or false. Okay, and then char is represent a character or digit. So how many? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Each of them should be like this, small letter. F up this looks better. Okay, So integer, long, float, double, short, byte, boolean, char. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So these 8 are primitive data types. Okay, there are also object data types reference. So in Java they are called wrapper class. So for integer, if you want to create an integer object, there are built-in class called integer. There are 8 of them for each, for integer, long, float, double, boolean, and char. So I will discuss that later. Recall that the object are stored in memory. Okay. Developers need some way to access and keep track of those objects. This is where the reference come into play. References points, so references point to object that are stored in memory. Okay, so we also refer to these reference as variables. So we also refer to these reference as variable. Yes, variables. So reference points to object that are stored in memory. We also refer to this reference as variable. Okay, while it's opening, for example, I wanna go for another slide. So let's say what is references versus object. Okay, so integer is just what int. I hate why it does the auto thing. Int, I don't like it. For example, comma int I equal 8. Not an object. Okay, but if you have person class and you want to instantiate that class, and the person is a class, and create an object from that person class. So this is object. Okay, this is an object. Wait, ints and person are data types. I and P are reference. So here int and person are data type. Okay, I and P are reference. I and P are reference. Okay. I points to a value of 8 in memory, and P points to a person object stored somewhere in memory. I points to a value of 8 memory, and P points to a person object stored somewhere in memory. Okay. Alright, let's go with the example. Day2 is the package name. This is a class person. So this is going to be a data type person class. So let's think what we can have. So we can have properties, can have method, constructor, okay. First create properties. So person have a name. Alright, so string type name. Alright, person have integer age. Okay. Let's go with only two of the properties. Let's find a constructor. Constructor does not have any return type. Let's see the rules of constructor. Constructor should not have return type. Yeah. no constructor is defined, then compiler will generate a default constructor for this object. All right. Important. Constructor name should be same as the class name. Should be same as the class name. Alright, so first of all need the access modifier, and there will not be any return type, and it should be same as the class name. Person constructors, this is one. Alright, this is one. We can have many constructor. Only difference is the number of parameters. Okay. Integer h. This keyword is used to differentiate between the local variable and the class variable. So this, when I use the this.name, that means the name is the class level variable. Okay. This.h. So I have two variable. One is name, one is s. So this two is argument, and this is local variable. Okay, and the string name and string int edge. So this is a class variable, class property. And so when I do not have when I don't give the access modifier in front of the class, okay, so that means this is a default. By default is default if there is no modifier in front of the field, so that will consider as a default. Okay, so let's make it private. All right, So after that we can create a getter and setter generate getter and setter. So this will automatic yeah, it just generate method, getter method. So public string get name, return the name, and set name. So it's gonna set the name, and get age, get the age. So this is complete reference data type. All right. Tester. So this is the tester class that will test my data type. So I'm going to create person data, person p equal new person without argument, and then person p2 equal new with my second constructor where I need to pass the name. All right. What is wrong? I didn't save it. New person, remove argument to match person. Oh, okay. See here, I said string name and integer age. So this should be, second argument should be a integer, then it will not complain. Okay, let's create a generate a toString method. So I generate override toString method, okay, for testing. Okay, so now if I want to see the value, p dot p2 let's take a look. The first one was p1. P object of the person class, I did not assign any name and age. So by default the name field is null and the age field is 0. For the second object from the same class, I called this second constructor where I passed first argument and second argument. So I can see the name field have value MD and age field have value 32. Because so I have two properties, those are private. In the second constructor with two arguments, so I said this name, this dot name, this field equal whatever I am passing into the constructor, the first argument, and this dot is the second argument, value of the second argument. Okay, so that is, so this is my custom data type. Okay, and integer is equal, okay, 34. This is primitive data types. All right. So reference, that's the example of reference versus object. So integer I8 is not an object. Person P equal new person, this is an object. Integer and person are data type. I and P are reference. Okay. So this is a reference, this is a reference, this is a reference. So this reference is referencing to a object, person object, and this is referencing a object, person object. So this P1 is a different object, saved in a different location at the memory, and P2 saved in another location in the memory. So similarly integer age also saved in a different location. Okay, let's see what is next.